Good morning, Ms. Daniso.
Good morning, Chief Justice.
Are you well?
I'm well, thank you. How are you, Chief Justice?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you.
Tell us, where did you do your BProc?
University of Limpopo,
And LLB?
UNISA.
What then did you do afterwards? After BProc, that is. We'll get to LLB later. What did you do?
Okay, served articles, and I was admitted as an attorney. I practiced as an attorney for 4 years. Then I acted as a magistrate for about 2 years. I was later appointed as a magistrate 13 years later. I was appointed.
For how long did you then serve as a magistrate?
As a magistrate, 13 years, and then as a senior magistrate is 2 years now.
Where exactly?
As a senior magistrate.
As a magistrate?
Okay, I was appointed for the court of Vereeniging. And then I'm a senior magistrate for Western area.
Yes. And when did you get the opportunity to act as a judge?
2017, I acted for a month in October. Then 2018, another month in September. Then the full term for the last part of the year in 2018.
What can you tell us about the move from being a magistrate to acting as a judge? Were there challenges? What kind of challenges? Was it a smooth sail? Just in your own words.
Chief Justice, I didn't struggle because when I was a magistrate, I was only in the criminal section for a few months. Then I went to do civil work. And I can say, fortunately for me, civil is regarded as complicated amongst my colleagues. And apparently only certain people can master civil. As a result, all my judgments, all my orders were sent to the appeal by the legal representatives in the Vereeniging. So that somehow sharpened my skills in writing judgments, that I should do my proper research, produce well-reasoned judgment, because anyway, they're going to end up in the high courts. So when I moved or went to the high court already, I could write proper or very good judgments. So I only acted there for 5 months, but in total I wrote 21 judgments. All those judgments were delivered on time, and they were good judgments. I say so because some of them were even reported on the online law library LexisNexis as judgments containing matters of interest. And to add to that, those cases were actually not on my roll. They were on the roll of the JP, and I was later told that he only allocates himself the most complex cases. So that's why I say I didn't struggle, because I managed the role, I managed the complexity of the matters that were given to me.
Yes. Well, you've covered all the leading questions I think that I wanted to ask you. And is there any other thing you want to highlight that projects you as the right person for this position?
Yes, Chief Justice, being in the district court, you like in the forefront, you are accessible to the community. Anytime a person can walk in, ask for advice, and I realized how little our people know about their rights and where can they get assistance and how. So being accessible, you're able to guide them to give advice. Obviously, in the High Court, we're not that accessible. So we speak to the people through our judgments. That's why when I write a judgment, I try my best that I use the simplest language so that anyone who comes across it can understand what are their rights and what I'm trying to say. And I also want to make sure that it's not only a judgment relating to the issue that I was dealing with. There must something that also pique your interest. And I can make an example with these judgments that I've already written, that one of them was actually about a rescission application. But then they also said, you know what, we didn't take notice of this, and this is important. The issue that if you are in a contract and you change your domicilium address, what is it that you're expected to do? So that's why what I think I can contribute as a judge.
Yes. JP?
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good morning, Mr. Daniso.
Good morning, JP.
Are you well?
I'm well, thank you very
Good,
much.
thank you. Mr. Daniso, just a few aspects. You recall after your stint, I called you about specifically 2 review matters.
Yes.
The one matter related to somebody who was allegedly illegally in the country. You remember the review?
I can't
You can't
remember
recall?
Yes, yes.
But I have a copy of it here.
Okay.
And subsequently, after he pleaded guilty and was convicted, it then transpired that he was actually a refugee. And the magistrate did not know what to do with the case. They sent it on special review. You remember it now?
Yes.
You dealt with the matter.
Yes.
And on the first occasion, you postponed, or you referred it back to the magistrate because the J4 was not signed.
Okay.
And then on the second occasion, you referred it to the DPP for an opinion. You recall that?
I'm not sure, but I'll take your word for
Yes.
it. Yes.
But that was a matter where Section 113 could have been applied.
Yes, yes.
And there was no need really, firstly, to postpone it, and secondly, or to refer it back, and secondly, to send it to the DPP for an opinion.
Okay. I think I remember a little bit about it, but what I remember is that I sent it back because the transcribed record was not attached.
No, that's the other one.
Oh,
In fact, in that one, there was a transcription after you sent
okay.
it back. And the
All right.
magistrate then wrote and said, but the transcription is there.
no, she wrote
And-
back and said it was not available. She explained in the letter that it was not available at the time.
No, Mr. Daniso, I have the letter here with me.
Oh, okay.
I will favor you with the copy to check. Then there is the case that you have attached, State versus Petu. Do you have it? Do you have a copy there with you?
The criminal one.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, excuse me, Chief Justice, I'm sorry, we can't hear the JP at all.
JP,
okay, thank
colleagues
you.
say they can't
Oh.
hear. Just bring it closer. Even a bit closer, sir, please.
Okay, thank you, Chief Justice. Well, the letter from the magistrate says the typed version of the proceedings was attached on top of the written record. And it says the reason why the transcribed record differs from the normal transcribed record is because this case was done by longhand. That specific day we struggled with electricity at the office and I decided to do the case by hand. I was afraid that with the problem that not everything will be recorded, the record was then typed at the office and I certified it as a correct copy.
Okay.
You might want to look at the letter.
No, I'm satisfied,
Good.
JP.
Then the matter that you attached, State versus Petu, paragraph 4 thereof Would you mind looking at it? One of the judgments that you attached?
Is there a page?
Well, it will be page 45 and on page 44, the judgment starts on 44, but on 45 is paragraph 4.
Is that the one starting with indicative?
No, the proper approach.
Sorry, JP.
Toza Amelia Livingston Petu.
Daniso.
Or
Page 45. Is this paragraph?
Thank you so much, Advocate Mpofu.
thank you. Are you on page
Yes.
paragraph 4?
Yes.
Now, that paragraph, starting at with State versus Malgas at paragraph 9, the court held it is impermissible. Are those your own words, or did you take that from another judgment? Up to justified. It is permissible up to justified.
Okay, I think I took it from the judgment because I referred to paragraph 9 of that case.
Of Malgas.
Yes.
Yes, but that part appears word for word in a judgment that was delivered in the Gauteng division by Acting Judge Rachibumu at the time. And you did not credit him. It's in the case of State versus Majeke. Maybe I must give you a copy so that you just compare the words.
Okay. What I remember is that I quoted paragraph 9 of State versus Malgas.
Yeah, but State versus Malgas does not say what is said in that paragraph. That is what Acting Judge Rachibumu said. I can give you paragraph 9 of State versus Malgas, if it will assist. Yes.
Okay, just reading a little bit, I can see that paragraph 9 and paragraph D mentions what I mentioned here on the state of Malgas.
No, but what I'm referring to is that this is taken from a judgment that has been written, it was written by Acting Judge Rachibumu. And I've showed you the relevant passage. And you'll see it's word for word, and you did not reference or footnote or credit him at all, or refer to that judgment at all. Do you agree?
Oh, okay. Yes, I agree if you say so, sir.
Wait a minute, let's just be on the same page. Are you saying you saw the judgment of Acting Judge Rachivungu, took the words from it, but decided not to acknowledge that you took the words from him? Or what are you saying?
Okay, what I'm saying, Chief Justice, is that when I wrote the judgment referencing paragraph 9, I was referencing S versus Malgas as I understand what is meant in that paragraph, in that judgment.
Yes, but did
Yes.
you at the same time have sight of acting Judge Rachivungu's
No,
judge? Did you take
no.
anything from it?
No, no. I just read State versus Malchus
Yes.
and Dodo and other relevant.
And put it in your own
yes,
words?
Yes, that's how I understood the judgment to say. That's why I wrote it like this.
Okay. There was no clarity, so I needed to be sure as you proceed that
Okay.
we're all on the same page.
Thank you, Chief Justice. And coincidentally, your words were exactly the same as that of Acting Judge Rachivungu.
If you say so, I haven't
Well, you
seen
can
his
compare
judgment.
it. You have the judgment in front of you, Mr. Daniso.
No, I'm saying I didn't see the judgment when I was writing
Mhm.
this.
So it's just pure coincidence.
Yes,
Good, thank you.
yes.
Let me move on. And lastly, also relating to the review of taxation, you remember that matter which you in the end referred to me,
Oh, yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
where the issue was really whether an attorney who is admitted to practice in one
The High
division
Court, yeah.
can then just automatically practice in another division.
Yes, yes.
And the registrar was of the view that certain formalities must be complied with. And that is contained in Section 20 of the Act. And the registrar said, well, if an attorney is admitted in one division, you can't just automatically come and appear in another. You must first be enrolled in that
Enrolled,
one. Yes. And you differed with
Yes.
the registrar's office. But you did not refer to Section 20 or deal with Section 20 at all, which sets out the requirements, in your judgment, I mean.
If I remember well, the matter, that issue, there was at that stage conflicting decisions on that question. And in my judgment, I substantiated my finding based on the later amendment. I think it's Section 4. I specifically mentioned that that takes away the confusion regarding that. I don't have the judgment with me, but I remember we discussed it and I explained why I came to that decision. What did I read and what I referred to in the judgment.
And I explained to you that you did not deal with Section 20, which is actually the section that says if an attorney is from another division, what the
Yes,
attorney should do.
yes.
But that issue has now been cleared by the Legal Practice Act.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Judge President. MEC?
Is it on? Am I putting it off or is it also on? Thank you, Chief Justice. I would not talk on cases and not what, as I'm not within the fraternity, but I will talk more on the challenges that we are faced with as a country and the remedial and healing processes that we are supposed to be going through, just to check. Me Daniso dumela mme.
Dumela, ma'am.
Le kae ma?
Please.
Re teng. Me Daniso, you know, we are faced with a lot of cases that are dragging for too long.
Yes.
And that's a general concern from our communities, that cases are dragging for too long. Would you be able to tell us, maybe in a case that you handled that dragged for too long, why did it drag? Was it because of admin processes or was it because of our own policy positions? And if there is any of such, because I want to believe that as you are working there, you are also an agent for change. What did you do to advise, to improve on the service that you are supposed to be giving? And what innovations would you have brought to ensure that there is improvement in terms of the service that we are supposed to be giving? And the impact on the victims and the witnesses of cases that are dragging, how do you deal with them? I don't know whether, Chief Justice, should I ask all the questions that I have or whether I should pause?
As you prefer, MEC, but it may be better just to put one question, allow her to respond, and then another. Otherwise, she may forget some of the questions you've put to her.
Okay.
Thank you, ma.
For this one, I will pause here.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. In the High Court, during my acting stints, I didn't come across such a problem of delayed matters, but I can maybe try and tell you about what is happening in the district court where I'm the head of office. We have what we call case management, case flow management. What it means is that we try our best to avoid delays by making sure that we hold pre-trials meetings before a case is allocated a trial date, which means it must only be trial ready before it is placed on the roll. And a magistrate is expected to make sure that he or she doesn't grant postponements of the matters willy-nilly. There must be an application and reasons given why the matter cannot proceed. That has really helped us to manage the court rolls. And another important thing to remember is that as a judicial officer, you are not the only one involved in the administration of justice. The police who bring the accused to the court, they should do proper investigation so that after the accused appeared in court, they don't spend time waiting, busy investigating the case while the person is appearing in court. Secondly, the prosecution must also collect enough evidence so that when the matter is brought to court, only few postponements and then the matter can proceed to trial without any delay. We also reporting to heads of offices every month regarding backlog cases and what are we doing to deal with those backlog cases. We have to give an explanation. So on our side, we have managed to control backlogs as a result of that.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I would then jump to my last question. I'll make it the second question because we have talked about the police, which was something that I was also going to talk about. Generally, there's a feeling amongst police men and women. They are very dejected to take cases to court. They feel that the courts do not treat them as they are partners in fighting crime, but they are treated with hostility when there are cases there. Have you ever sensed that? Have you ever felt that? Have you ever had meetings to discuss that? Are there mechanisms to deal with such matters? Because if police are dejected to take cases to court, it means we are going to have a lot of challenges and crime will increase because police would not be doing their work well, feeling that they're not being supported in the work that they're doing.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear about that, but we have case flow management meetings where all the stakeholders attend the meetings and we come together in order for us to deal with challenges in the respective departments. And for me, those meetings helps a lot because everyone that is from the Department of Correctional Services, the police, can tell us what are their challenges and what they expect from the judiciary, vice versa. So from where I'm coming from, we don't have that problem because anytime a police officer has a problem, then we talk about it and we sort out those problems.
My last question, Daniso, would be around people who are coming from rural areas and who are living in farming communities. Okay. As we were doing rounds, visiting, doing door-to-doors, taking parliament to the people, rural communities and farming communities have been complaining that when cases do get postponed and postponed and postponed, it affects them in terms of attending because remember where they are staying, there's even scarce transport to allow them to attend the cases and all that. What innovations would you say you can bring in, should you be considered to ensure that rural communities and farming communities do enjoy the services that they're supposed to be getting from the judiciary services?
Yes, I think the only way we can deal with that is to take justice to the people. So if it's in the rural areas, we have to build courts there so that people don't have to travel a distance. They don't have to spend money to travel to access justice. So I think we have to build courts so that people can be able to access those services.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chief Justice.
Thank you very much, MEC. Ms. Daniso, would you be aware of a structure known as the Provincial Efficiency Enhancement Committee that brings together all the key role players in the justice system, facilitating the lodgement of complaints or whatever concern any player in the justice system might have about the other?
Yes, the PPC.
PEEC, chaired by the Judge President.
Yes, I'm aware, Chief Justice.
So if police have complaints, you are aware that they may tell the members of the judiciary there?
Yes, I'm aware, Chief Justice.
Thank you. Commissioner Singh?
Thank you very much, Chief Justice, and good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much. I note from your CV that you started studying for a master's in child law.
Yes.
At UNISA, and it was not complete.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask a question on the basis of, I think, gender-based violence and femicide are major problems in our country. The President took a lead role. I think the Chief Justice also made some comments in that regard. My fellow Commissioner asked a question of another applicant yesterday about gender-based violence. And there is the issue of not granting bail to those that are accused. It's a public outcry, and even the President indicated that. Have you dealt with any such cases of child abuse, gender-based violence in your courts? And how would you react to this call that bail should not be granted to people that have been accused of such offenses? That's my first question. Thank you.
Oh, I can answer now. All right. Yes, I've dealt with those matters. Even though I'm a senior magistrate, I preside in the Children's Court. And we also deal with domestic violence matters. And I agree that, the cases are prevalent, and we have great laws, that the Domestic Violence Act and the Constitution, but obviously it seems like there's a room for improvement, because those laws, they seem not to be working. Maybe it's the applicability part of it. We're not applying it to the fullest. With regard to bail, as a presiding officer, I know that it can't be a blanket thing that if you charge with this offense, then you don't get bail. I have to listen. Each and every case has to be treated on the merits. If that will help to curb the domestic, the gender violence issues, then we can try that. But what I'm saying is that this is a holistical approach where it's needed most, because I've had cases where the victim herself, will tell you, I don't want this person to be arrested. She comes there already, she's been violated. You can sometimes even see the injuries. You ask her, okay, you're looking for a protection order, which I will grant you, but you also have to open a docket. This person must be arrested. They tell me, magistrate, I don't want that. I just want him to be reprimanded, because if he gets arrested, who's going to look after the children? So it's also this problem about financial side of it. Even the victim themselves, they don't want the perpetrators to be incarcerated. So when I say we need a holistical approach, I mean everybody must come to the party, the social services also, because when a person tells me I don't want him to be arrested, I refer the matter to the social services to assist this person with financial side of it, food parcels or whatever, so that there cannot be now a reason why we cannot arrest this person. So I don't know if I answered the question.
No. Thank you for that. No. I agree with you that we've got to find a holistic approach. But I'm just trying to find out from you whether you personally have tried to adopt this holistic approach in any matter that has come before you. Because I agree that the law is not going to sort this problem out. It goes beyond the law. So have you been personally involved in trying to, and Chief Justice, I may be wrong because I'm not a lawyer, but I would think that even if a person does not want somebody to be charged for an offense, there are certain offenses where the state would, of necessity, prosecute, even if the person that's bringing about the complaint wants to withdraw the complaint.
That is correct, Honorable Singh, although sometimes that refusal would mean there is no witness that you need to prove the case against that person. And that's how some of these cases collapses, because you need somebody to say what happened to be able to prosecute and hopefully convict.
So, ma'am, if you can just respond to my follow-up, and then I'll ask you the next question. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, what was the follow-up? Sorry.
The follow-up was, have you personally been involved in any holistic approach with anybody else to assist, people who have been beaten or children who have been abused and so on and so forth?
Yes, like I said, when a person tells me I don't want him to be arrested because I don't have an income, I involve the social services to do an intervention, because I believe if then the person knows that I will get food for my children, so it's not necessary for this person to keep coming home to violate me because they're buying food. So that's what I've been doing, and it was apparently a new thing for the social services. They didn't understand why we involving them in domestic violence matters.
I'll leave that one at that, Chief Justice. The next question is the BLA in their comments, which I'm sure you've read. They say the BLA notes that she has acted as a judge for a little under 2 terms, and we are aware of the view that she should be given an opportunity to act regularly because the minimum acting stint required is at least 3 terms. The BLA does not support her appointment at this stage. How would you respond to that?
Okay, firstly, I saw the comment. My response is that, like I said, it's true, I only acted 5 months. But during those 5 months, I sat in all the sections of the High Court. I wrote judgments in all the sections of the High Court. And it was not just run-of-the-mill judgments. They were good judgments, as I've already indicated. I even managed the matters that were actually on the roll of the JP. Therefore, I don't think we must delay other competent women from coming to act by making me act unnecessarily.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Commissioner Msomi.
Thank you, CJ. Good morning, Ms. Danisa.
Good morning, sir.
Ms. Danisa, it was retired Judge Albie Sachs who said, and I quote, "Undue judicial adventurism can be as damaging as excessive judicial timidity," close quote. What did he mean?
Okay, I'll try to explain it as far as I can understand it. I believe you do your job, without any favor or fear. You apply the Constitution, you apply the law, and everything will be fine. If you go beyond that, dealing with matters in order to impress other people, then it will be a problem. That's how I understand it, essentially. I believe if you are a judicial officer, it's quite simple. You just apply the Constitution and everything will be well.
Have you been exposed to the concepts of judicial restraint versus judicial activism? And what do you understand by those concepts? And where do you fall within that realm?
I believe I fall under judicial activism because, like I said, when I give a judgment, it's not only for the parties, but to also empower everyone who comes across it with the knowledge of knowing what are their rights, where can they get help, and in what manner. So I believe I fall under activism.
May I have a bite, as a follow-up question? If indeed you are a judicial activist, as you claim to be, and you have written about 22 judgments, I think I understood you to have said, have you had an opportunity then to develop our common law to be in line with the ethos of the Constitution?
I'm not sure I understand. Can you please repeat the question?
The question is quite simple. You are a judicial activist. Judicial
Yes.
activists are those who look at the law and say, the law says this, but perhaps the law ought to say this. In other words, they take the advantage of developing the law. Have you had an opportunity in all the matters or in any of the matters that have come before you to develop our common law? In other words, common law was this, you had the matter, you felt the need to develop it, and you have, in that process, enhanced our jurisprudence.
I don't believe so.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Somi. Honorable Nyambi.
Thank you, CJ. Morning, Ms. Daniso.
Morning, Commissioner.
How would you describe your personal experience as a black woman in the when it comes to the legal fraternity?
Well, Commissioner, it started actually before I even entered the legal fraternity. I remember while I was still young, when I just registered for law, I had people telling me, what are you doing? Law is difficult, law is for male. Even if you qualify, how are you going to take care of the family while running around representing clients? I also remember that my father, at his employment, they had bursaries. So everything was in place because he kept on updating me as an encouragement to study, that you will get a bursary when you finish your matric. But then it seems he made a mistake on that. When we were supposed to hand in the results, he took me along to introduce me to his boss. And the boss was shocked, like, it's a girl. He said, yes, it's my daughter. He said, then you can't take a girl to university. He said, why not? He said, she won't manage. But and again, before the end of the year, she will come home pregnant. My father said, I'm willing to take that chance. Then he said, okay, then it won't be a bursary, it will be a loan. That will be your money to waste. So my father said, no problem. Then I got my degree, started the law practice. I remember clients will come to the office and look at me and look around, where's Mr. Moyana, my maiden name, because they expected a lawyer to be a man. So I said, I'm the lawyer, but I'm Miss Moyana. And I'll tell myself, we'll see after I'm done with your case whether you'll still look at me like that. So as I alluded before, when I was put in the civil court, because of my race and gender, it was thought I won't be able to do justice to that court. That's why every judgment and order that I gave was sent to the appeal court, just as a confirmation that I know what I'm doing. So that's what I've experienced so far.
My last question in relation to the first one, maybe your experience as a female black acting judge in that division, if you can share with us.
The Free State High Court is a very collegial court. Didn't really feel being treated differently because of my race and gender. In fact, I suspect my race and gender also gave me an opportunity to be invited to act there.
Thanks. Thank you, CJ.
Thank you so much, sir. Prof? Thank you so much. Minister?
Thank you, CJ. I see you did a master's, but you could not finish. Do you want to tell the commission the reasons why you could not complete the master's?
It was mainly time constraints because I got to a point where I felt like I need to put my energies in developing myself as a judicial officer.
With regard to your role as in the head of the district court and where you are now, is there any role that you have played with regard to the modernization of the court process, or what is your view of what should happen with regard to the modernization of the court processes that will help us to run an efficient judicial system, or any processes that relates to the whole process of the court?
Yes, we have problems, I think like most of the court, relating to filing systems, files getting lost or misplaced. If we can digitalize that, that will help a lot. I actually have a passion of IT, and as a result, presently I went for training for the court recording systems, where I'm able, from my office, to check on whether the courts are sitting and whether the recording machines are working properly, and also to make sure that court times are used for the right reasons. So I really think if we digitalize the court so that attorneys, when they have to serve, let's say, pleadings, they can do that digitally. And AVR system has helped a lot in that some of the accused facing serious offenses, they don't have to be transported to the court, which help in avoiding escapes. So I'm in for it. It's just that I hope there will be funds to, to make that possible.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you so much. But you also know how much money it would save if it were to be developed to the point where you can take evidence from a person in America while you're sitting here in South Africa, instead of paying traveling, accommodation expenses like other jurisdictions are doing.
Yes, CJ, I remember attending this training where they said there's a country, I don't know, I can't remember if it's China or what, where a magistrate could just download the pleadings sitting in the office, read the pleadings, and read the heads of arguments, and then give a judgment without anybody coming to appear in court.
Yeah, China is more advanced in that. They've got an e-court, they've got an e-commerce court, they have a finance court. They are highly automated courts, which even facilitate easy access of information to the general public.
Yes.
Yes, you know in advance who the presiding officer is going to be, what the case is from home, whether you are a litigant or not.
Yes, I think even America, maintenance matters are dealt like that. They file the proof of expenses and the proof of income, and the judge can decide then how much must be awarded as a maintenance order.
Yeah, no, a number of America, Singapore, Malaysia, Australia, a number of jurisdictions, even Swaziland, by the way, is aggressively moving in that direction. Tanzania is advanced. They were funded by the international, by the World Bank. By the World Bank. So many jurisdictions have made progress. I think it's only South Africa and a few others that are left behind. Well, that's what the 600 million sought to do. Advocate Norman SC.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good morning, Ms. Daniso.
Good morning, ma'am.
I'm looking at the Petu judgment that the Judge President asked you about.
Yes.
And I opened up the Malchus decision, and I just want to read to you what you had put in quotations in your paragraph 4 of that judgment. We're still at page 45. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. If I may just read what Malchus says in paragraph 9, but in the middle of that paragraph, the specified sentences were not to be departed from lightly and for flimsy reasons which could not withstand scrutiny. And you have put in there in your paragraph 4, lightly and for flimsy reasons which could not withstand scrutiny, and you put it in single quotes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. And then let's go further to see where you also quoted from that judgment, as you said. There is a paragraph in Malchus that starts, still on paragraph 9. It's a very long paragraph. A sentence that begins with what they are up to, just for context. The use of the epithets substantial and compelling cannot be interpreted as excluding even from consideration any of those factors, full stop. They are neither notionally nor linguistically appropriate to achieve that, full stop. What they are apt to convey is that the ultimate cumulative impact of those circumstances must be such as to justify a departure. And in your paragraph 4, you've got in there where you say, all factors relevant to determining sentence remain relevant when the act applies, and the sentencing court must look to the ultimate cumulative impact, and you put that in single quotes, all of these factors in order to determine whether a departure from the prescribed sentence is justified.
Okay.
Yeah, do you confirm that, ma'am?
Yes.
I'm not sure that you're following me. I am looking at paragraph 4 of the Petu judgment.
Yes.
Yes, and the part that I've read out to you, I simply wanted to confirm the single quotation
All right.
that you, because you had, in answer to the JP, you said
Yes.
you relied on this judgment.
Yes,
And
yes.
I've just read out to you the quotation from this judgment, and if you look at your quotation, ultimate cumulative impact, and you took it from that judgment.
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Is that what you are saying?
I think so. I can't remember the details when I wrote the judgment. Like
Yes.
I said, I relied on the judgment when I wrote the judgment.
Yes. You know, what I'm trying to say to you is that it actually confirms that the extracts are from this judgment of
Yes,
Malchus.
yes.
Okay, thank you. And then just lastly on that very judgment, I'm sorry, CJ, if you could permit me, one more question.
Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much. That's a case where a 71-year-old was bludgeoned by a 25-year-old to death. And you had sentenced that person to life imprisonment for murder.
Yes.
And also you sentenced for housebreaking as well, was it? Yes. And with intent to robbery to 15 years imprisonment.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Do you know whether this matter was taken on appeal?
As far as I know, it was not.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Norman. Honorable Dodovu.
Thank you very much, Chief Justice. Just 2 points. Let me just close it. Just 2 points from my side.
Okay.
The first one, in your view, what are the impediments to the elevation of women, especially black women, to the bench? What constrains them, as you came to know?
Okay, I can answer it by saying what can be done to elevate African women to the
No, I want you
bench.
to tell me the impediments.
The impediment.
Yes, the constraints,
I
the
think-
difficulties.
Okay, I think the difficulties, like I've alluded to before, is that maybe as a female, you know, there's this thing that you may not be able to do other responsibilities. For instance, when you are a high court judge, you will have to be away from home for circuit duties. Maybe that's one of the reasons maybe they favor males, because then they can travel easily. I'm just assuming, I'm not sure.
What do you think has got to be done?
I believe in mentorship. I believe that some of us who were able to progress somewhere, you have to go back and mentor from the university level. You know, you mentor the African women, and once you do that, even when you invite them to your law firm to serve articles or pupillage, you must make sure that you empower them with experience. Don't just send them to court to do postponements and reserve the important or the cases that you think are difficult for the most senior officials.
Okay, my last question. You said you are a proponent of judicial activism.
Yes.
Don't you think that it contradicts the trias politica, the doctrine of separation of power?
No, it does not.
In what way?
Because
Can you-
that, I believe that is also my core function, you know, to be a judicial activist.
A lot of people say if you don't do it properly without checks and balances, you may overstep the boundaries of the separation of power. What is your view on that?
My view is that then you don't overstep your powers. You don't encroach on other sections of the arms of the government. You just, so to speak, stay in your lane.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Commissioner Masuku?
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good morning, Ms. Daniso.
Good morning, sir.
I'm not sure I had the question that you were asked by the Judge President relating to a case where he says you didn't refer to a certain provision of an act. Remember, the Judge President was debating with you.
Section 21 of
Section
the
20.
20 of the Attorneys Act.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now I wanted to, and then as you were debating that, something bothered me about a remark, or rather your answer, where you said we discussed the judgment, and you said, and then when you said that, the Judge President then said, and I explained to you that you did not deal with Section 20.
Yes.
Can you just give the context in which that discussion took place, bearing in mind your duty to be independent,
Yes.
and whether when you referred to Section 20, the reason we didn't deal with it was because you are asserting your independence in reasoning through the judgment. Even if the JP did not agree with you,
Yes.
you simply wanted to do it in the way you wanted to do. Just as you answer that question, I must just tell you that you write very well. Because I read your judgments, I was very impressed with the way you write.
Thank you very much. Okay, the context in how the matter was discussed is that one of the orders that I made in the judgment was that the judgment must be referred to the JP to deal with the findings that I made, adverse findings that I made against the taxing master. So I believe obviously he read the entire judgment, and then he called me and said, I got the judgment and I agree with you with regard to these points, but on this one I don't agree with you because you didn't refer to Section 20. And I responded and said, as far as I know, this is how I understood all the legal authorities applicable here, and this is my judgment.
Thank you for that answer. just as you claim the title of judicial activism, perhaps you can tell us what the risks are if that activism is not with restraints.
It's not.
It is not with restraints.
Yes, the risks are you obviously then you step on other people's toes. You will now, like I said, get off your lane, and that's the problem. And if you do that, the parliament will impeach you and you lose your job.
No, hopefully that doesn't happen.
Commissioner Ngosi Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Justice. And good day.
Good day, ma'am.
Ms. Daniso. Working through your CV, or shall I say the questionnaire, paragraph 7, what stood out for me there was that you tell us as a JSC that you served in an adjudication role at the Housing Authority, where you would deal with disputes pertaining to conversion of permissions to occupy to title deeds. Do you confirm that?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, would you care, please, to tell this commission if you have found your experience there to be helpful to you personally, personal development, and in what way, if at all, it has prepared you for the position to which you apply?
Yes, my responsibility there, I was appointed as an adjudicator, which means I was a presiding officer in these inquiries set out by the Department of Housing. Just a little bit background, what happened is that in the olden days, people who were occupying the township houses, they were not entitled to own them in the sense of having title deeds. They were instead issued with permits. So in the democratic government, that was recognized as an anomaly. So they decided that people should be given title deeds. So what I understand is that the municipality then called upon people who were occupying the houses to submit claims, you know, in order to be allocated the title deeds. But then the problem arose that some of the people who were occupying the houses were actually not the original permit holders. There were people who had to vacate to avoid the political wars in the 80s. And when they found out that now they can get title deeds, they also laid claims. So they had now conflicting claims. That's when they appointed us to adjudicate. You had to sit in that inquiry, and because it was not formal, you didn't have an attorney to help you conduct the proceedings. So you also had a duty to make sure that everybody had a right to set out their case. We listened to evidence. We let people submit any proof that they have, called witnesses. And then after that, you had to give a judgment. You have to write a judgment because it was going to be submitted as a supporting document to submit the request to the deeds office. So because these people have no legal background, there's no attorney, you had to make sure that you give good reasons why this person now has to lose this home, this house he regarded as his home for many years. So you had to be sensitive to that whatever order you give, you have to substantiate it, give good reasons so that the person can at least be satisfied knowing that he had an opportunity to set out his case and a judgment was given based on good reasons. So that, in fact, I think it's part of what prepared me in order to be able to write judgments. I started then writing judgments.
How long were you there for?
For the whole 4 years when I was practicing as an attorney.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks, Chief Justice.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Colleagues, we've had a good 11 of us at here. I think if we have a sense that we have done justice to the responsibility of testing her suitability, those of us still coming may have to reconsider. But that said, President Maya, over to you.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good morning, Ms. Daniso.
Good morning, President.
I agree with Commissioner Masuku. You do write well, simply and clearly, and that is a rare skill.
Thank you.
That said, I'm curious about Moyana Attorneys. You were a professional assistant for only 3 months and then took the brave step of starting your own law firm.
Yes, ma'am.
Which you ran for 4 years?
Yes.
What motivated you to embark on that adventure, and what challenges, if any, did you experience whilst running it, and why did you leave practice?
Why did I leave the practice where I was a PA, professional
your
assistant?
own now?
Oh,
I just want you to take me through the process of deciding to start your own law practice, which cannot have been easy, and then running it, and what challenges you would have experienced as a woman, if any, and then what finally caused you to leave it.
Okay. Yes, when I was appointed as a professional assistant, I realized then that, most of the work, there were few black women dealing or specializing with civil work. So there I felt constrained because that firm specialized only in criminal work, and I wanted to pursue civil work, and the owner of the firm told me in no uncertain terms that we only do criminal here because at least it brings money. If I remember well, that's one of the explanation he gave me. So I decided to take a leap, to open my firm where I will practice or specialized in what at that time I felt I can contribute. So that's when I decided to open my firm. It was indeed not easy because obviously even the financial side of it, and even when you go to court, you looked at as if you are in a strange place. But I just persevered because I then also had people, ladies that I was mentoring, and I thought if I run my practice, I will be free to also allocate my time to improving these ladies that I was mentoring. The judicial part of it actually came by mistake. It's not something that I aspired to. A friend of mine called me and said, in Germiston, which was opposite my law firm, they want an acting magistrate. Will you be interested? I said, no. And then he said, okay, I told the senior magistrate to phone you. And then I had to submit the CV. 2 days later, I was on the bench. But I've never regretted it.
Much appreciated. President, Commissioner Sigogo.
Thank you, CJ. I won't have much. I should tell you, Miss Daniso, that I'm impressed by your response to Commissioner Sin in respect of the doubt by the BLA of your response, of your experience.
Okay.
I was impressed, and also which come out in terms of what you did before you acted. Indeed, it shows that you might, if considered for this position, you have it that you can do for the judiciary, and the way you are hands-on on matters, like how you control the role from your office, I think you can even be more than just an ordinary judge. Thank you.
Commissioner Mbofu.
Thank you. Well, I'll only have one question. Sorry. CJ, I'll only have one question after that retraction from the BLA. Thank you.
It's on a lighter note, Mr. Sigogo. You don't have to respond.
Yes.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you. Yes, okay. The remaining question then is you are an African woman. There are particular experiences which you must have experienced both as a practicing attorney, magistrate, even acting judge, just as an African woman in particular. And I'm using that specifically because in this position you are competing against other women. And we all know that women are as a gender, have a disadvantage. But the other women that you're competing against, I think one is an Indian woman, the other one is a white woman.
Yes.
Now, all things being equal, your position as an African woman should be an advantage in terms of the transformation that we need in this country. But at the same time, these things should never be applied rigidly, simply because you're an African woman, you get a tick, and so on and so on. So what specific experiences as an African woman, unique specific experiences would have armed you? Well, firstly, that you have experienced as disadvantage, and which would have armed you to be better suited than your competitors for this position.
Okay, what experience?
What experiences have you had in your long career?
Yes.
Which relate specifically to the fact that you are an African woman, and what unique insights would you be bringing to that bench as an African woman in particular, not just as a woman in general, which is also important, in case I'm quoted as saying that you must not bother about being a woman.
Okay.
On a lighter note, if you are quoted.
I'm just emphasizing something without taking out the other. Yeah.
Okay. I think if I'm recommended, you will be telling all African women, especially girls that are still growing up, that your background and your gender cannot limit you. It all depends on hard work, determination, and I believe I work hard. Like I said, when you look at my acting stints, and I'm impartial and I'm diligent because I do research and I give reasons why I don't give my order in your favor. And yes, I have integrity, and propriety, I always put or do my best in whatever capacity I'm in, whether as a magistrate or as an attorney. I never cut corners. The writing of the judgment, I can say it's a skill because I intentionally told myself, when you do something, you must do it properly or don't do it at all. So I think that's what I have. Other candidates, I think they don't have, except my race and gender. I wouldn't be happy being appointed just because I'm black or a female, because that won't help me to write a judgment. But if you say I'm black and a female and I have the skills, I will take it with both hands.
Thank you very much, Susan.
Thank you so much, SC. Honorable Lucas.
Thank you. Like you said, Honorable CJ, a lot have been requested and there was quite elaborate responses. Good morning.
Good
Is it
morning,
still morning?
Yes,
Ma'am Daniso.
I hope so.
I told them you are my namesake. For just on a lighter note, I was listening to you, and I heard that you said you are the leader in the regional court at the current
district court.
District court.
Yes.
At the current moment. So I would like to understand how you deal with different personalities as a leader, but also as a person, how you deal with authority. That is something that I would love to understand. in your
Yes.
whole makeup.
Yes,
Thank you.
it is true that, you know, there are different personalities, and you add to that, I found myself that most of the time I'm in a senior position of people who are twice my age. But I think my calmness and humility and respecting people without imposing myself on them has helped me a lot. And when I make changes like I did in Western area, I didn't go there and start ordering people around. I said, colleagues, I see that we have a shortcoming here. I propose we deal with it like this. What do you think? Because I believe if you involve people, you don't treat them like children, then they have respect for you, and whatever you say to them, they accept it because you're not undermining them, but you respecting them. Even in the children's court, they bring children that they've been abused because their parents are abusing drugs. I don't relate to them in a disrespectful manner. I make them realize that I accept and I respect that they are the parents. They are there because they need help, but not to be judged. So I think respect begets respect.
Thank you very much, Ms. Daniso. On a lighter note, now people are saying they want to bring their children to me. I know where to take them to. You're excused, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.